How is it possible to still make $75,000 on a deal when the day of closing, the deal goes boom, but not in a good way? My man Ben is here from Greensboro to share that experience. Also, how to be a real estate agent second, but a real estate investor first. So if you want to learn those things and more, you know what you need to do is simply stand by. Let's get it.
Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. You text me then I'll text you back. Text me then I'll text you back. TikTok, you don't stop. I will help you make your paper stack. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at now? 205-964-5243. You know. 205-964-5243. You know.
Hello, guys. This is Ty, aka the Flip Man, and today, we have a very special guest out of the Greensboro, North Carolina area. Ben made the connect through Greg Dickerson, and we're here to talk about his journey, which is, I think, Ben has only started since 2019, correct?
That's right, into 2019.
Yes, sir. So, as you all know, I like to get into how someone got started into real estate and how you led up to the initially getting like your first deal, but even before then, where your interest lied, what you did, I guess, as a 9 to 5 or whatever occupation you had going on before real estate. So, if we could just start there, Ben, on what were you doing before 2019, I guess?
Yeah, first of all, it's an honor. Many of us got our start listening to podcasts like yours, and what you're doing for people out there, man, it's much appreciated because somebody needs to do it.
I appreciate it, man. Anything that I can do, I'm trying to put it out there, man. There's enough money out here for all of us 100 times over. So
I firmly believe the same thing. I got started. I didn't know anything about real estate. Previous to this, I was an auctioneer and I owned a little eBay store. I was out there hustling and going, stopping on the side of the road, seeing what I could buy and throw up on eBay or take to the auction and try to make a little bit of money on trying to hustle.
Wow.
So nothing related to real estate at all.
So you were that guy?
I was that guy.
I used to just a little backstory. When I was in college, one of my entrepreneur journeys was I thought I could. I'm assuming the statute of limitations has expired on this, but I took my student loan money and thought I was going to become a millionaire by selling used cars. So, that was before the internet. So I'm not even sure how I figured out how to get a dealer's license, but I got one from the state of Alabama. And I started going to auctions. And, I had always just seen it on TV and, it never made any sense to me. I'm like, man, how am I going to understand what these guys are saying? The auctioneer, when he's, doing the bidding or whatever. So, and basically you're saying the same thing over and over again. You know what I'm saying? So,
exactly.
Yeah. So I soon realized that he just really saying it over and just being a little crafty with it or whatever. So, but yeah.
That's right.
So what were you auctioning off? You all just did anything or what?
Yeah, so I wasn't structured at all at first. I was out hustling trying to find stuff, and so I thought I knew a little bit about old stuff and old stuff sells. So would try to find antiques or whatever I thought, and just research it on eBay and then try to throw it up there. And a friend of mine said, "Why don't you get your auctioneer's license?"
Wow.
And so I did that, and I started apprenticing for a guy, and he passed away a couple of years after that, but he would go into estates and out in the country and he would just sell everything there for the family. And so I helped him for a bit. But just to be honest, man, wasn't a lot of money in it. Unless you were structured, unless you had a following and and some of those auctioneers, they were selling houses along with
Mm.
everything that was in it, and that's where some of the money was really made. But
Yeah.
that wasn't even on my radar. I mean, I was
Wow.
clueless as far as that went. So so yeah, that was my career in the auction business. So previous to that, I was worked a little bit in fire protection. Just doing some inspections on fire protection equipment. Still nothing in the range of real estate. I think I was in those years. I was more worried about partying than I was anything else. So,
That's what's
um,
up.
but
All right. So, what was your first light bulb moment as far as okay, you can get into real estate like this, and you know, I guess you started wholesaling or subject to. I think you did subject to the first one, but
yeah,
so what was your first light bulb moment with real estate?
in late 2018, it was Thanksgiving weekend. I was taking a long ride to West Virginia. It was about 6.5 hours,
Wow.
and I had been listening to some motivational stuff, and just a little backstory on me. I kind of like to talk about this a little bit, but I'm in recovery, so
Okay.
I'm fortunate enough to have gotten sober about 6.5 years ago, and I had been listening to some speakers, some recovery speakers, inspirational speakers, and I was looking for something different, so I just looked up on YouTube and found Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Mm.
and it was free, and it was 6.5 hours, and that's how long my ride was. So I thought, well, this is meant to be true. Didn't know that I would like it. I hadn't read any books up until that point since I was probably in 11th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and what wasn't interested at all in reading. But I listened to that book on YouTube, and man, a light went off. And
Okay.
I just so following that book, I started researching podcasts, and it was funny. I found people like you and Greg, and then people like another one of my mentors, Don Costa. Um, and so I started just vehemently listening to that stuff every day. One thing Greg says is like, if you really want to do this thing, you got to take this, and he uses the word iPod because he's older, you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
anyway, he said you got to take all the music off your iPod. The only thing you need to listen to are books and podcasts about real estate. And I was listening to one of your shows last night, and it was talking about that first class that you took that you bought. I think you bought that on eBay. And and I know you did the same thing. I know once you got hold of those CDs, there wasn't nothing else you listened to for a while. And you lived that stuff. And that's exactly what I did. That's why it's so cool. It's full circle for me to be on a show like this, because maybe I can inspire somebody, to come from, completely not having anything to where I'm at today, and just really through hard work is essentially, how I got here. So,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
coach,
Okay, so and I guess I never even thought about that. I know that how you say you can have audio books or whatever, and of course, Rich
yep,
Dad Poor Dad is one of the more famous, um, I guess you'd say, entrepreneur real estate investing books out there. That brand or whatever. So, and someone's
exactly.
actually on there just reading the book, so you can just listen to the audio on
Listen
YouTube.
to, on
Okay, yeah,
Audible,
yeah,
and it's but on YouTube they have some free books, and
hmm,
that happened to be one of them.
yeah,
Rich Dad Poor Dad. One of the interesting things he talks about was when he wanted to buy a car, he just went out and hustled and made the money to buy the car.
hmm,
Nowadays, man, we go up to the dealership and we and I still do this too, but I'm saying we go up to the dealership and we finance a car. But
yeah.
what he was saying is, in real estate, man, you can set a goal, you can go make the money, and you could go buy that thing that you want, and then you own it, and you've earned it. And so, man, that inspired me. I was like, so this is possible.
All right. So once you got inspired from that drive and listening to the book, when did you? So that was late 2018. When
Yeah.
what else did you do after that to educate yourself more? And then we'll get to what action you took after that. But what did you do more? You just started to consume as much stuff as you possibly could.
Yeah, absolutely. I joined my local RIA, Real Estate Investment Association, sometime mid 2019, and that was free, I think, for the membership that I got. I started to go into meetings, and I just continued to listen to podcasts and read books. And in 2019, I read 52 real estate books, so
Wow.
one real estate book a week.
Wow.
Um, September the 3rd of 2019 is a couple of days before I had heard Greg on a podcast. And I thought, this guy, he said he lived to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And he also said he spent part of his time in North Carolina and part of his time in, up near DC. And I said, and I had heard previous to that about don't be afraid to reach out to people, just don't be lazy. Just write an email and send it. And so that's exactly what I did. I sent Greg an email, and Greg is a no BS kind of guy, man. I think within 10 minutes I had a response. I mean,
Yeah.
and so he kind of started feeding me a little bit of info. It wasn't like I was talking to him every day, or I even was having long conversation with him. He would just give me a little thing to do, and then so I'm on the same page as you and Greg. I believe in coaching. I spend a lot of money on educating myself. I just got back from California at a mastermind meeting that cost me quite a bit of money, but I believe that there are people there who are willing to teach you, and it may cost you something, but it'll help you avoid some mistakes. And it also helps me. I mean, I met you through Greg, so it helps you with networking and contacts and all those other things. But anyway, so Greg started feeding me little info, and I believe that when somebody is willing to tell you to do something, I believe you take that advice and do it. So I would take these little bits of information and I would follow up, and then I would say, Greg, I did that. What's next? And I do that with my mentors today. I try to take their advice. They're willing to take their time. They're busy people. We're busy people. We're willing to take our time, and we're willing to share, our experience with someone. And I believe that when someone is willing to do that, that you should respect them or respect the idea and go out and try it. And so I think that's why Greg was willing to help me like he did.
I got you. Okay, so all right, so that was September 2019. So what
Yep.
was the first thing you did as far as when you felt like you took action, whether it produced results or not? What was the first thing you
Well,
did?
yeah, I mean, I threw a logo on my truck, and I started downloading trials on CRMs, and I formed a company. I
Mm-hmm.
went out and I built business cards, and I don't recommend this to everybody. I mean, I think that you can just start. I don't think that you have to go through all those steps that I did. But I spent a lot of time, starting to build some of those systems. And
Mm-hmm.
and familiarizing myself with some of the softwares like PropStream and different ones
Mm-hmm.
that and I downloaded. You always talk about driving for dollars, so I downloaded and got Deal Machine, and it was, I think back then it was $40 a month or something, or 50.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of money to me. I mean, but it helped me tag deals and I would just call people. I would tag them. I'd look up their phone number online. There's a lot of free places to find phone numbers. You don't have to pay somebody to skip trace if you're doing one-off calling. And,
Yeah.
and I would call folks. But really, I lucked up on my first deal. But I think luck follows us. I think if we work hard, I think that sometimes the grace tends to fall on us if we're working hard towards something.
Mm-hmm.
So
So all right. So tell us about that first opportunity, that first deal.
well, that old truck of mine that had 250,000 miles on it, I'm piddling around in that thing today, son. But I had a magnet logo on the side of it. It cost me about $30,
Mm-hmm.
and my next door neighbor, I didn't even know him, and they wanted to move, and they wanted to get rid of their house, and it was distressed. And about that same time, I started looking into getting my real estate license. So I think I had just passed. I think I had just passed my real estate. That was a step I took as well. It took me about a month and a half to get my real estate license. I mean, I rushed through it. I studied.
Mm-hmm.
I took the quickest route to getting it here in North Carolina at the time. We had to go to class I did the 5 day a week thing, and within 45 days I had my full license. So
Mm.
right around that time is when these people contacted me, and I went over to their house and my next door neighbor, and they're ready to sell. And I asked them what they wanted, and they told me, and I said, well, would you be interested in selling it outright to me? And they said yes. And by that time I'd listened to enough podcasts where I knew 70. It's the formula I still use today. 70% of ARV minus repairs. It's that simple formula, that straightforward. There's a lot of variations to it, but it's still the one that I use today. So I think the number that I came up with was something around 145 or 150, and
Okay.
at the time, and that was February of 2020 when that happened.
Okay.
So
All right.
um,
So that was right before COVID then. Okay.
yep.
So you say the number that you needed to be at was 140, or was that the ARV?
No, the number I needed to be at was like 145, I think.
Okay. And
Yep.
so they accepted that amount, or what was the situation?
Well, I presented it. We agreed on 150,
Mhm.
and I proceeded to go out and try to get hard money. As you know, COVID hit. So a couple months later, we're going to close, and the morning of closing, I get a call from my attorney, who I'd met at the RIA meeting, that they added an additional $60,000 to be brought to closing. Well,
Who
I,
the
I didn't have that, obviously.
who the
Uh,
hard money lender?
Yep. So they wanted to cover their risk because obviously in the beginning of COVID, none of us would have thought the real estate market was going to go up.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, have to
and
go
they
up.
wanted to cover their risks. So they did that by the day before closing,
Mhm.
raising what I had to bring to closing.
Mhm.
And it was hard for me to get hard money at the time because I didn't have a good credit score. I didn't have a lot of money to put down. One of our agreements, I think, was that I was even. I mean, I was paying a higher interest rate than everybody else. I mean, I was really in a bad deal with hard money, to be honest with you. I mean,
Mhm.
I barely negotiated to even get it, and then by them giving it to me, that they had a lot of stipulations to go along with it. But the straw that broke the camel's back was the day before, my or the morning of my attorney calling me and telling me I needed to come up with an extra 60K,
Mhm.
and man, that just wasn't happening. That
Oh
there was no
Lord.
way in the world. Um, so what that did was that forced me. I knew what a subject to was. I
Mhm.
had listened to a lot of podcasts. I felt like it could even do one,
Mhm.
but the problem was I didn't believe that anybody would do that. I'm not. Why in the world would somebody allow some dude they don't even know to take over their loan with Wells Fargo or State Employees Credit Union here in North Carolina? Can't
Uh,
remember which one, but
I
we've
got
done a few. But why
I
would
got
they do that?
I got two words for you. Motivated seller.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
All right.
But
So you had to go back to them and say, "Hey, well, that's terrible when you have to do that." I've only had to do it a few times, but it's terrible when you get that
yeah,
close to closing. I've had to get out a lot of deals. That's just the nature of the business. But
right.
the day of closing, got to go in and have that conversation. It is
Yeah.
terrible, or whatever. And
It
so what happened?
it was. Well, it was easy. Just to be real about it, I mean, I offered them. So we were under contract for 150. I offered them another $5,000 to allow me to assume their loan, and
Mm-hmm.
and they saw the money signs. They were like, I mean, they only owed 105,
Mm-hmm.
so that's just more money in their pocket. And
Mm-hmm.
so they said, how does it work? And of course, Greg had encouraged me. So it was funny. The same day, my attorney, who I had met in RIA, who I really took to, and Greg both said, go see if they'll let you assume the loan. They both said it within back-to-back phone calls. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had the paperwork. I knew how it was structured. So when I presented it to them, I was prepared, and I think that was important as well. Um,
Okay. All
but they
right.
just
So
jumped. It was no question, Ty. I mean, these guys just jumped right on it.
okay. what timeline did you give them with the subject to? And if you people that don't know what that is, it's short for subject to existing financing. And basically, someone has a mortgage. In this case, they owe 105, around that amount. And Greg spoke to them about. I'm sorry, Ben spoke to them about um, uh, them deeding over their property, but the loan still remaining in their name, right?
Exactly right.
And
Yeah.
then, but whenever I sell the property, I'm going to sell it at one. You're going to get 155, so you'll walk away from the closing table with 50,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's different, 50,000, and then whatever I make above that, I keep or whatever. So basically, that's
Yeah,
what they were
and
doing.
they even carried the additional funds. So, you know, I owed them 150, payoff was 105. I
Yeah,
assumed their loan and made payments on that.
yeah,
But they even carried those additional funds to closing. So I didn't. I essentially brought a few $1,000s to closing
yeah.
to cover lawyers' fees and stuff like that. So
Right.
the timeline, I told them, I just said I need to rehab it, and that was the beginning of COVID. So I said something like a couple of months, not knowing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I have coached some baseball, and I was running a baseball organization at the time, and one of my coaches was a contractor,
Mm-hmm.
and he when he heard I was doing this, he got excited and offered to help me. So I did have a contractor that there was a contact that I knew, and through Greg's advice, I talked the contractor into taking payments when he was through. So he would do some work, and then of course we'd inspect it, and then we would pay it, and then he carried almost 50% to closing.
Oh
So
wow.
I didn't. It helped me with the amount of money that I had to come up with, which there's no way I could have done the deal without all these little negotiations taking place.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. So now you had the contractor to assist you with doing the work on the property. And so what was the timeline that he had it ready to go? And I'm assuming you listed it. So, but how long did it take it to have the property renovated?
Yeah, I mean, we took several months on that. I mean, there were delays because of COVID.
Mm.
There, we literally closed on the property the week before COVID, hit the world, and so, he would only let one of his guys in at one time. So an electrician couldn't be there the same time a painter was there,
Mm.
or the HVAC guys couldn't be there the same time the roofing guy was there because he didn't want to expose anyone to anything. In fact, he got COVID during all that, and
Oh
so
wow.
it really delayed the project. Done a lot of deals since then. I trying to think of how long it took, but man, I think it took 5 6 months to get
Mhm.
that 6 months to get that rehab done.
Okay.
So
All right, cool. So once the rehab was completed, what did you ended up? So you listed it, and then you did list it, right? Because you were
yeah,
able.
absolutely. I
Okay.
listed it. During that time. It was funny. So during that time, I kind of got the inspiration to start my own firm. I was working. I got my real estate license, and I kind of started working for another firm, and I'd done a couple of transactions. But I got the inspiration to start my own firm, and but I listed it through another firm, um, but I think we ended up closing the transaction in our own firm. We ended up that's not true. That's not true. I'm sorry. No, I ended up forming an agreement with a young lady to come and work for my firm, and we ended up transferring it from the firm that I was working with to the firm that she was working with, and so that property it was amazing. It was beautiful. The guy did a great job on it. It was, we were
Mm.
really proud of that to be our first flip.
What did you all list it for?
That one we listed for $300,000.
Mm.
So, we were really looking to hit a home run there. We still did well, but so we had 155 to the seller, and then we had around 60 in rehab costs, and we listed it at 300. I
Mm.
believe was the
Okay.
number.
Did you get that number?
We did. In fact, it seems like we had multiple offers and we got more. We did have something happen during all this. We had that $60,000 rehab included an emergency at the end. We ended up getting all the work done for a little over 40. But when the buyer came in and put their deposit down and started doing inspections, we found 17 joists under the house that were completely rotted. And
Foundation issue. Okay.
yeah, exactly right. What it was the HVAC system, the air conditioning system. Had some ducts that weren't functioning, and that moisture was pumping into that crawl space. And because that moisture was pumping into that crawl space, those joists were just getting soaked. And these were structural I beams, these big 45-foot long I beams that are essentially they're plywood, they're sandwich plywood, which are really strong. But you can imagine that how expensive that was to repair. So we did have that emergency, at the end of the project.
Okay. All right. So I guess you're basically about 215 in, have it listed
Yeah.
at 300. So what was your final take on it? Sounds like you had to share it a couple of places. What was
Yeah.
your final take on it?
Yeah, I mean, we ended up netting around 75,000 after it was all said and done, and
Okay.
paying investors.
Okay.
Um,
All
I
right.
tell you, the biggest the best part here was not how we handled that deal, and not um, you know not that deal itself. It was what we did right after that deal, and I think that was the smartest thing I've done since I've been in business. There
Okay.
were many things that I wanted to buy. Obviously, I mean,
Mhm.
you come into $75,000 and from not having a lot of money, and obviously you want to go out and hit the town, but that's not what I did. You know, but following that, within a couple of months, I started the real estate firm and
Okay.
United Properties, and so we put all that money back in the business, almost all
Okay.
of it.
I got
Yeah.
you. Okay. All right. So that was the first deal. And so from that point, and I don't know if you were already doing it, but what were you doing at that point to generate more leads? Because took so long for that deal to close. Was that the only thing you were working on at the time? Really wasn't thinking about other deals, or what was happening in that basically about 6 months to make this happen? What was happening in that
It
time frame?
it was the only thing I was working on at the time. I mean, I was calling some sellers, potential sellers, cold calling some folks, but it was the only thing that I was working on at the time. I just didn't have the bandwidth or the finances I felt like to do anything else. One note about that property though, even though it was COVID, and I know I had to come up with some money to rehab it, and I was able to borrow that and from a family friend and pay that back at very high interest, and it was a blessing that they did that for me. But one of the things that happened in the middle of that deal was I was offered $190,000 for that house before we even started rehabbing.
Mm,
So I know a lot of your listeners, they do wholesale deals. Well, I could have literally sold that deal and made $35,000 without coming up with anything
yeah.
other than some closing costs at that time. And if I would have pushed the deal, and the timing would have been a little bit better, I think I could have done that pre-closing, and I think I could have done a true wholesale on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It sounds like you definitely could have, most definitely. Okay. All right. So after that, you've done a lot of deals. So I say, okay, I'm not gonna go to deal two. All right. So
right.
basically, so basically what has happened since then, that first deal, and we'll try to get into where you are now. But what happened pretty much that started to happen often, I guess you would say.
Yeah, so we did some Facebook content, and one of the local TV stations reached out and asked would I be interested in advertising with them. And I was like, "There's no way I can afford television." But we sat down, and she gave me a quote, and just like anything else, I negotiated that quote, and we got that quote way down, and we started, with a very small amount of commercials on CBS. So we were running during Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy and the local news,
Oh
and
yeah.
and we were just running 10 commercials a week.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of where my deal started coming in, and the TV is still big for me or consistent for me today.
Mm-hmm.
But not believing that I had the money or even the know-how to advertise on TV, and then from just sitting down, and I was listening to Grant Cardone the other day, and sometimes he said hit the reason for his success is he moves forward on things without necessarily knowing 100% what he's doing.
Yeah.
That in order to um, really fix things, you have to fail at it first. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you try a new marketing avenue, and if you wait till you know everything about that marketing avenue, you're never going to do it. But if you try it and something's wrong and you make adjustments, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
that's what I did with television.
well, that's a lot of with anything really. Like
Mhm.
what you say, Grant said is because a lot of people never make a move at trying to do a real estate deal. Or since we're here talking about wholesaling, because they want everything to be perfect. That's one of
That's
the
it.
great things about it. It doesn't have
Yep.
to be perfect. You can make a
Nope.
ton of mistakes and still end up with a 5-figure payday. You know what I'm
Well, I
saying?
mean, and look at what I did on the first deal. I
Yeah.
mean, I made that could have been catastrophic, but the one thing I did right. You make your money when you buy. So I
Oh yeah.
negotiated the deal right, and I stuck with my numbers. And so, uh, that allowed me some wiggle room to make money on that deal. And I was listening to Les Brown the other day, and one of my favorite inspirational speakers, and he said there are no successful people who have not experienced a ton of failure, a ridiculous amount of failure, and that's what we have to realize is we have to embrace failure. I mean, um, and because a no is just if I another no is just I'm closer to getting a yes. So if I've got to call 200 people to get a deal, I'm looking for them 199 no's is what I'm looking for, because I want to find that one yes, and I believe strongly in that.
Yeah, see, well, just to add on to that, you want when you're actually in it and you are making mistakes. No one want to make mistakes, but it's just you have to have the understanding it's just going to happen. 20 years
Right.
in this, 20 plus years in this, and I still make mistakes or whatever. It's just going to happen. But what should happen is that you learn from those mistakes. Like anything that
Exactly.
I can teach you is not going to probably be more valuable than when you're actually doing it and making mistakes and learning from those experiences. Hopefully, you're learning from the experience. Let's just say that or whatever,
Yep.
because it doesn't have to be perfect. And, that's just in business. People say, "Well, how can I prevent from getting sued?" You can't prevent people from suing you. Yeah, you can be totally on the right side of the law. But you can't prevent people because you're going to always have attorneys to take people's money. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You're going to
Yep.
always have unreasonable people that'll go pay an attorney, and the attorney knows they have no chance of winning. But because they showed up at his office, they'll take his money. You're going to always have that group of people. So there's nothing. If you're afraid of getting sued, don't ever go into business.
Yeah, exactly.
Period.
Exactly.
Just period.
Yep.
So, but anyway, so you got introduced to TV, and and I've done TV before years ago. And what I realized then is, and I was only one to wholesale. I wasn't really interested in doing anything creative as far as lease options, subject tos. And whenever you advertise it on TV, in my opinion, and it may have changed, and maybe I didn't give it a long enough shot, is that you got to be open to more than wholesaling because
Oh yeah.
you're going to get all types of situations. You should be more open to wholesaling anyway, but especially when you're spending, the more you spend on your ad spend, you got to be
Hmm.
more open to more forms of doing deals because
Sure.
those monthly pay fees for that ad is going to come whether it's Facebook Marketplace, whether it's Google AdWords, whether it's TV, whether it's radio. All of those are more expensive methods of generating leads, So you got to be willing to be a lot more creative to do different types of deals or whatever. So am I wrong? Am I thinking there?
Oh yeah, and so I'm obviously big into branding. You know, you see behind me, and in my shirt. You know, so um, we're a real estate firm. So we're a full service real estate firm. I mean, I have buyers agents and listing agents, and with every listing presentation, I give a cash offer. So. And I'm great at creative structures, and that's only because of coaching and reading books, and so whatever it takes to help somebody,
And I didn't
I
even
can figure it out. You know,
and I didn't
whatever's
even
best
think
for
about
somebody.
that part of it. You are an actual brokerage, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So it's not really that. I get you. Do you do both commercials? Like you promoting more the brokerage? We can solve your real estate problem or whatever you want to
Yep.
promote it. And whenever they come
Well,
through the funnel, once you talk to them, I guess you got your investors hat on first. And
mhm.
then if that doesn't work, then we might need to just list your property because you want retail for it or you want this amount.
Well,
Yeah, so just
I'm real transparent. So I go out and my agents are great. So they know the comp value of a house. So my advertising says that with we'll give you a cash offer, but we used to split the advertising up, but now they're just one message. And so my agents will come out and actually tell you what your house is worth on the open market. But
mm,
then we'll tell you what our cash offer is, which is substantially less. And what I was told in the beginning was that we were shooting ourselves in the foot because we should go out and present the cash offer. Um, but to be honest with you, man, I'm here to do a service for people, and I'm here to do it right. And there are still people who take, it's just like you said, a motivated seller is not going to want to see their property sit on the market and go
oh,
through inspection
oh,
and possibly sell, possibly have a price drop. Especially, man, the way the news has been lately, and talking about how terrible the real estate market is, which I've seen a little bit of, but not really.
not
More and
really.
more people are wanting to sell cash because it's guaranteed.
Yes.
And if they're moving out of state, they don't want the inconvenience of listing their property and having people come in and out. So that cash offer, even though it's less money, money is not people's motivation 100% of the time. We just think it is,
Yeah.
because we don't have any money. But once you learn and you do enough of these deals, you learn that people have motivations. And um, last week, we had three strong leads, and we got three listings out of it. Neither one of the three, we weren't on the same page as far as numbers. We encouraged them to list. All two of the three properties needed some work, but we advised the people on maybe what they could do to get a little bit more for their home. So I'm here to help people, and the money will come. And we're still signing investment deals every week, just because there are motivated sellers out there, and those are the folks that are going to take the cash and the 2 week timeline and the no inspections guaranteed, and run with it.
Yeah, you people. It's not always money or they need money fast. It's just the house. They just simply be a headache for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not even about the money. I had just two stories I can think off the top of my head. Had a older lady. She was in a retirement home and she sold the house because she allowed her granddaughter to move in there, and the granddaughter wasn't taking care of it, and like she did when she was there, and the neighbors were complaining about it. And she told me, Mr. Taylor, I'm telling you, I'm about to give you my house, but I want to explain to you why. Because I don't need the money, but I'm not going to allow my granddaughter to destroy what I built, what I worked hard to build. I'd rather give it away than allow her to do it or whatever. Another lady sold the house to me. She was out of a divorce, and she got a rental property in the divorce. And because she had nothing to do with it, but because her husband, she knew how much he loved that house and cherished it. She sold it cheap, and she wanted him to know that she sold it cheap. So it wasn't about the money or whatever.
Oh man.
So it just people's motivation. That's why I tell people, like they'll say, "Well, can I do this in San Diego? Can I do this in I don't know Utah, Salt Lake, or whatever?" I
Yep.
ask people die in Salt Lake. Do they get divorced? do they move or relocate? Do they lose their job, their income, or the tired landlords there? It's life. All that
That's
stuff
right.
exists. I don't care where you are, it exists. You just have to do a good enough job and let people know you exist so they'll know to call you or be one of the people that they call. So anyway.
That's exactly right. I was just in San Diego, and I can promise you, there's distressed houses there too. So I rode by a few of them.
Yeah, so people get in those markets because you're in Greensboro. I'm assuming the pricing in Greensboro is similar to Birmingham. We'll talk about a property like you just talking about $150,000 property, and they can't in some markets like San Diego that doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like they can't. The baseline may be 300 as far as in a D neighborhood or whatever. But I say that's a good problem. Because you would do the exact same thing that I do, and my check on a wholesale deal may be $12,000. Your check may be $72,000, and that's common.
That's exactly right.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. And you're going through the same thing. So don't get caught up in the pricing that you hear us guys talk about. But it's only a few markets like that, though. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Most of the markets are similar to where you and I are. You know what I'm saying? So
well, here's the thing. So if you're doing creative finance, and if you're either doing a subject to or you've got a private money lender coming in and funding the deal 100%, the rehab, or you're wholesaling it, the amount of money the house costs is irrelevant. In all honesty, I mean, because you're not bringing any money to the table, and then once you finish the house or improve the value of the house or find a flipper to buy it. I mean, that's when you see your profit. So the price of the house is irrelevant if you can find that financing or do a wholesale deal. It's irrelevant.
Oh yeah, and like I say, the only reason houses can sell at any price in any market is because that's what people can afford. Period.
That's right.
You're in Southern California, and like I say, the prices of houses are extremely high. It's only because that's what people can afford. But trust me. If you find a $900,000 ARV house, you can get it for $600,000. You can sell it just as fast. If I found a $90,000 house and I can get it for $40,000, you can sell it just as fast in a week because you're gonna have that many buyers ready to take it off your hand at $675,000, $700,000. You'll have just as many buyers, probably more because there's millions of people out there compared to here. But anyway. So we connected through Greg Dickerson, and those of you all that may not know who Greg is, just YouTube searching and you'll see. But I did a recent interview with Greg, and I didn't even know Greg existed until not Sunday, but last Sunday. And I don't know what I know what I searched for. I did a search for build to suit, right? Meaning, right. You'll see that sign on a commercial leases a lot of times. Where they'll build a property to suit whatever you're trying to do. In short, BTS is the acronym for it. And so I did a search on it because you see a lot of people trying to explain it. And so I clicked on Greg's video, and he made it make sense to me, which I already knew what it was, but he broke it down. And then I went to his channel. I said, "Oh my God, it's a library and stuff." So before I know it, I was buying a course, so nice. All in the same day. And so that was the Sunday before the conference championships on the NFL. So I was basically watching football on mute and just listening to Greg. And so I reached out to him. I was like, man, hey, send him an email and on Instagram, would you do an interview? And that was Sunday. So Monday, emailed and said, yeah, man, I know who you are, blah, blah, blah. I only thought he sort of research, but once we did the interview, yeah, I've been watching your stuff for a couple of years. I'm like, huh? Like that or whatever. And so then Greg and I did the interview. And so I just reached out to him, let the interview know it was up, and thanked him for sharing his time and knowledge. And this is how me and Brian connect. Say, you ought to check out one of my students, Ben. And I'm sure he can add some value to your people that do your information or your content. So that's how Ben and I connected or whatever. But I bring that up to say, so you're looking to go into commercial, and I don't think you've done a deal yet, but you're close.
Yeah, I mean, we made an offer last week on a $1.5 million medical facility that had partially burned inside. through Greg, I've met a contractor that's extremely experienced who doesn't have time to find the deals. And I'm good at finding deals. So and then through Greg, I've met a guy who's good at finding money. So we formed a little impromptu partnership per se. Um, and so we've been analyzing some deals. We looked at two yesterday. They didn't work. I mean, it's just like the game we're in. I mean, and one of the guys that gets a little discouraged, I let him know we might look at 100 of these buildings before we really find the right one or we get our offer accepted. But I mean, I'm okay with that. One of the steps that I took to move forward, we've started getting some commercial listings or at least some inquiries about commercial listings. One of my agents is working with a commercial buyer right now, but I went out and got a CoStar subscription for my firm, and CoStar is essentially the MLS for commercial real estate,
Right.
essentially. So it helps you break down deals. It helps you, there's 17 million commercial properties in the United States on CoStar, whereas like on LoopNet, you're only going to find 200,000. That just gives you a little bit of a difference. But one of the things that we're doing with commercial real estate is one of the things that we started doing with residential. We're doing some mailers, and they're a different type mailer. They're a different type direct mail, but it's still the same. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Finding motivated sellers and making sure that the numbers work and making sure that you have qualified people to do the work. And knowing your ARV, and of course that's figured a little bit differently, by occupancy and different things, but yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Okay, so on that, two things. What are you all only trying to target properties in your local area at this point to get your feet wet? Number one.
Yeah, one of the guys is, in fact, both the guys that I'm kind of working with have, one is not even in our area, and
Okay.
he's been involved in several multifamily syndications up north. The other is down in the coast in Wilmington, North Carolina, and he's working on 10 properties right now. He's been involved in a lot of deals. I'm kind of the only new one here, but they brought me in because, like I said, I'm pretty good at finding stuff. I'm pretty good at sniffing stuff out. I spend my life studying real estate marketing. I mean, we're doing a huge direct mail campaign now. We've got a sophisticated data system set up. We're doing some cold calling and of course television, and we just started with some social media stuff that'll be coming out over the next month. So we kind of touch a little bit on everything. You know, to find our deals.
So you're trying to find something in that greater Greensboro area.
Well, Greensboro or down at the coast of North Carolina in
you.
one of those counties. So
I got
yeah,
you.
absolutely.
Okay, and so what type of properties? Because commercial is deep. It's just like with houses, it's just houses. Maybe you got condos and townhouses, stuff like that. But with commercial, you got multifamily, which is 5 units or more apartments, self-storage, right, hotels, motels, retail, shopping centers, industrial. What am I missing? There's a couple more. I'm missing something.
And there's commercial land as well. So
yeah.
We love a play on land, getting it entitled and changing the zoning and bringing some value to, a commercial builder. We're looking for that. We're looking at multifamily. We've looked at office space. We've looked at a couple of hotels, and these are just the things that we've looked at over the last few weeks since we've started together. So I feel like that my partners have experience in a lot of different areas, and that we could take down just about anything that had value if we find it necessary. And then of course I'm still looking for single family. I love it when people bring me deals. It's my bread and butter is this residential business and always will be, I'm sure. So I'm always looking for those and I anywhere east of Greensboro, I can take down a deal. and from
Okay.
Greensboro all the way to the coast. We're members of 4 different MLSs in North Carolina, so I can list properties or buy properties and renovate them in any of those areas.
All right, cool, man. Wow. Really love it, Ben. Just in that short time frame, you've sound like you've changed your financial situation, and I'm sure that's benefiting the people you care about, and still
Absolutely.
looking to grow more. Being that with the background that you had, the changes you had to make in your life. Before we get out of here, if you could just add any type of encouragement, because I know people situations are different. This stuff sounds good, you know what I'm saying, but until you do it, you don't know it's real. You know what I'm saying?
That,
It just
that's right.
you don't know it's real until you get that wire in your account or that deposit that check to your account. It just sounds good, you may think I'm smarter than you all, but trust me, I'm not.
That's
Trust me.
right.
The only difference is I'm not afraid to take action. And I still question, if I wouldn't have did that deal in the first 30 days, how long would I have stuck with it or whatever, because it is what it is or whatever. But if you want to add anything to encourage people, please do so, sir.
Yeah, I mean it's important. First of all, it is a good feeling to watch that wire coming into your account, man. I tell you
It's
what,
love.
I nothing like it. So, but yeah, I'll be checking my phone sometimes, man. And anyway, that moment is a good moment. But so like I said, I listen to a lot of inspirational people, and I heard TD Jake say something the other morning. I try to listen to something inspirational every morning, and he said, a lot of people are going to talk down about what you're trying to do, and they're not going to believe that you can do it, and you can overcome that. And you can do it. But what you can overcome is when you start not believing that you can do it yourself. Because in my opinion, the old saying is if I believe I can do it, there's a chance I can do it. But when I start believing that I can't, that chance diminishes, and there's not a chance at all that I can do it. So you can do this stuff, man. It's just one foot in front of the other. Gary Keller wrote a book, The One Thing, and I have an app on my phone. It's a list of all the things that I have to do, but what I try to focus on is the most important thing for that day. Some days I only get one thing done, but I make sure that that's an important thing. And if I get one thing done every single day, one big thing, then that's a lot more than what a lot of people get done.
Boom. That's what's up, man. I really, really appreciate you having the time to make this happen today. I thank Greg for recommending you to this, because I think this will help a lot of people on their journey, because it wasn't easy for you. You had a pitfall on closing day on your first deal, but you didn't let that stop you, because you had educated yourself enough to know, hey, let me go see if there's an alternative. I can make a different offer. And the sellers, because they were motivated, accepted it. And they had to still wait on their money 6 months to get their money, basically. So, and that's how motivated they were. All right. And they knew the situation of the house, too. That makes it different. They were not in La La Land, because you can have people, you can have people in a house that need 60K and work, and they still want 300 for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
that's right.
They want retail for it. Oh my God.
We list those. That's what we do. We list those.
Yeah. So those are the ones turning the listing. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
All right. So man, I really appreciate it, Ben, man. We'll be in touch. Hopefully we can mix it up, do some stuff together in the future or whatever, as far as maybe some deals for sure. Maybe some more content also, as we both go along on our journey, because I'm on this commercial journey too, taking a little different approach on it. A couple of things I'm doing there, but stay tuned on that. But anyway, so again, man, we appreciate you sharing your time, your knowledge, your experience. And as I always like to say, guys, we will see you on the flip side.
Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. You text me then I'll text you back. Text me then I'll text you back. TikTok, you don't stop. I will help you make your paper stack. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at now? 205-964-5243. Now you know. 205-964-5243. Now you know.